all my days, the day from hell is probably the worst. Probably one of the best ways. Didn't start that way, ended that way. Unfortunately, I've had a bit of a mess around with the episode today. So my normal co-hosts, my normal stunners that I'm normally with, are not here because of a problem on my end. But I've got just an even more stunning gentleman with me. We have an extra special guest on the College Football UK podcast, and you will guess from his accent. You need to guess where in the UK he's from with his accent. My probably very best friend in the whole wide world, Chris. How are you, sir?
On, brother? I'm good, brother. Ready to talk a little college sports, college football to be exact, and to, talk a little bit of trash about the ACC, everybody's favorite basketball conference pretending to play football, and talk about Michigan for sure, because, it's nothing better than living a life that requires you to be in maize and blue. So, yeah, I'm ready to talk some football, brother. What we got?
Well, obviously, we just had week 1, a full slate of games that happened over Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday. We had 5 nights of football, which just blew my mind this week for how long the off season is. Just incredible.
For sure.
So there's a lot to unpack from week 1, and there's a lot to go into for week 2 as well. But and we'll just roll with it, see where we get to.
Yeah.
I haven't collated news much from the week just because I just want to talk football. I don't want to talk like business bits and helmet bits and whatnot. I just want to talk football with you.
Yeah.
The only one thing I have got in kind of terms of news was that UConn are looking to join. Is it the Big 12? Oh, I've got it here somewhere. I think it's the big. Yeah, UConn are trying to join the Big 12
because they're
the basketball, aren't they?
Yeah, I was going to say their basketball team. I want to say they're in Conference USA. They're either in Conference USA or they're in the ACC. I want to say Conference USA for sure, but I mean, we're going to see that a lot, especially with the way the NIL deals are made, TV deals are made, like the amount of money that the Big 12, the Big 10, SEC, ACC, like the amount of money and revenue that they are able to acquire for these schools that don't necessarily have the revenue stream from football. They're able to join these conferences and they're able to get, maybe better facilities, or they're able to provide maybe bigger NIL deals to students who are potentially looking there to go to play ball with them. So I think it could be interesting for them. But again, I am definitely interested to see what happens with
that. Just Googled really quick. They're an independent officially as far as football goes. But they're anything for basketball. Is it the Big East? I'm not much of a basketball guy to know. But I just thought that was a bit interesting, and it opens up an interesting conversation. But more importantly, let's just get into football. Let's just talk football.
Well, let's do it. Please excuse, your puppy nephew. He needed to run outside for whatever reason to go play amongst the leaves. But yeah, let's talk football, brother. I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited. We haven't talked ball in a while.
So, what's most important, I think, about football this weekend, than anything that we could talk about that we watched on the television, you followed in my footsteps from a week before, and you went to a real life college football game, didn't you?
Yeah, sure did. I went to Duke, my future potential alma mater. I went to Duke. I wanted to check out the campus, but I was able to snag some tickets to go to the game. And it was, let's just say you can tell the difference between the schools that take football seriously and the schools that they have the money, but they don't really invest in the football.
Yeah.
As like the football game as a whole. Like it's not a holistic approach. The quarterback, I can't think of his name. He looked good, but the standout most definitely is their graduate senior, or I think he's like their 5th-year guy. He graduated with a bachelor's in psychology, Jordan Moore. He's already graduated. He's ready to go into the league. I think he's taking this year to kind of showcase a little bit more of what he has. I see him as maybe like he's 6 foot, so he's a little bit smaller, but I could definitely see him on a team that needs like that shifty slot guy who has the ability to run a lot of different routes in the route tree. He's not really like a specialist receiver, like one of those guys like you would only put in on these types of possessions, because he will go and get the ball for a guy his size. But he was definitely impressive, even though they played Elon, which is another private school inside of North Carolina. It was definitely it was very interesting to see like the separation between athletes that could potentially go to the league versus guys that are just they might be on a scholarship, that might have walked on, and they may not go to the NFL, but they're there having a good time.
The guys
it was really interesting.
Yeah, the guys who, with no disrespect to some of these men, they're walking up to you when you're going buying a car in 20 years and saying, "I covered Marvin Harrison Jr. once."
right.
I broke
Most
up a pass to Marvin Harrison Jr. once, forced an incompletion to him, and you're there going, "Yeah, of course you did. I'll take the slightly bigger screen at the front of the car, please."
Right.
And thank you.
Right, I'll take the BMW.
Yeah, and you can shut up about Marvin Harrison Jr. now, please. As well as that, though, I say we can get onto some ACC, especially in a second, because oh boy, do we have some ACC talk to get onto. Well, actually, technically, it starts now, because I'm going to look at some of the 3 bigger games, I think, that had some talking points come out of it that weren't necessarily involving teams of guys who are normally on the podcast. So, start off with was the obvious Clemson, Georgia. That was like the big game early on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia were only 6-0 up at halftime, but then absolutely kicked the living crap out of Georgia, who defense looked good in the first half. I can't lie. And then Georgia just did what Georgia do and wiped the living crap out of him. What did you get from?
I think what I got from the Georgia Clemson game for sure was you can tell whose programs are going to remain. Like you're starting to see the separation between like the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, and whose coaching staffs have been together and they've been able to take advantage of the transfer portal, the ability, the COVID year kids. Like they've been able to maximize the potential of all of these players in a year round, and they know the type of athlete that they're going to get. They know the type of linebacking core that they want to have. Like, and they go out and they get their guys. And these men, because they're not kids. I mean, they're not kids, but I think of them as that because I'm old. But you can see that there's a gap. Like Clemson is going to have to take a different approach. You're not going to be able to get the homegrown guys anymore, because why would I go to Clemson if, I don't know, Georgia's offering me an NIL deal, or I can obtain an NIL deal, and there are sponsorships there and stuff like that where I can get the Nike deal. And I've seen guys go to the NFL, and I've seen guys have the opportunity to make millions of dollars before even entering the league. Why would I go to Clemson if I know that I can maximize that opportunity somewhere else and I'm financially more stable?
Yeah. No, absolutely. But you've also got, I think, as well, though, and it's a really good point you mentioned about getting the homegrown players and getting the recruiting talent in. Because you've also got the transfer portal, which Dabo Sweeney has been often criticised for just not. And he said he won't use it. He doesn't like it. He doesn't want to use it. Is this an example of why he either needs to change with the times, or he might be looking for a job at the end of the year?
I think this is definitely an example of that, because a lot of the blue blood teams got better through the transfer portal. A lot of teams were able to pick up and meet their needs with guys who maybe were on a team, they were unhappy, or they wanted to play at that school, didn't get the opportunity. Now the opportunity has presented itself, and now they can go there. Dabo Sweeney is going to continue to suffer for long extended periods of time unless he makes like the decision to at least dabble in the transfer portal. You don't have to take 15 players, but if you know there's a kid at Georgia Southern who's a freakish athlete, might be a little rough around the edges, but he has the potential to be a game breaker. You go and he's going into the portal, approach it and see what you can do for him.
Yeah.
See what you can do.
Yeah. And just really quickly, I guess, again, on just sticking on Georgia Clemson for one more minute. Carson Beck, one of the favourites for the Heisman, arguably the favourite, if not one of the 2 or 3 favourites to go number 1 overall in the NFL draft in April. 23 completions of 33 attempts, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 91.7 quarterback rating. I mean, it's only Clemson, right?
Crazy efficient, though. I mean, you can't beat efficiency. Like you can't
No.
Like, he might be a number 1 pick because I don't it's too early for draft talk. I hate like draft talk at the beginning of any season, but I mean, you can't coach that type of efficiency, but it is Clemson.
Yeah.
It's Clemson. They look like a very disciplined team on the field, but after a while, the better athlete's going to win out. I will say that.
Yeah. Well, we know each other because of the Lions. And
yes,
both of us have been very vocal with the Lions about halftime adjustments and struggling to make halftime adjustments, particularly in certain positions on the field or certain position groups. However, again, just gotta go just on the whole. You are 6-0 up at halftime. You've scored 2 field goals. And then all of a sudden, you outscore your opponent 28-3 in the second half. A score that I'm sure people from the state of Georgia will remember, the 28-3. I don't know why. Just an idea. I feel like it might mean something to them. But adjusting in the second half, improving in the second half, making the changes necessary to improve in the second half, it means a lot. And I think it says a lot about a team. And obviously, well, they've got probably, now that a certain someone has left, they've probably got the best coach in college football, though, now as well, and one of the best staffs.
Yeah, I definitely think that Georgia has the best staff, team, coach in the SEC. I think other teams outside of the SEC, maybe in Big Ten, would have, reservations about saying Georgia is the team to beat. But I truly believe that Georgia is the team to beat. They look like a well-oiled machine. They own time of possession by 4 more minutes than Clemson. They didn't turn the ball over at all. Like, they had more penalties. Like it just was Georgia had more penalties, but that's gonna happen if you have that much ownership of the ball for that extended period
Yeah.
of time, and then you're kind of moving and grooving. I don't think they allowed Clemson to kind of get into a rhythm from what I was watching. I didn't feel like Clemson ever had like a rhythm where they
No.
were able to establish themselves during the course of that game. So, oof. Dabo, you got to figure it out, brother. You might want to look at the transfer portal.
Well, in that game, an SEC team kicked the backside of an ACC team, and then we can flip it. So this time we can watch we'll talk about an ACC team kick the backside of an SEC team. Also, both of them in Florida. Watched Miami just at times felt a bit unfair beat on the Florida Gators. Just to where am I talking about? There they are. Did you see Cam Ward, and how do you think Cam Ward looked in the new Miami offense?
Again, we're going to bring up Miami used to be a blue blood school for football. So it's not surprising that they're able to draw certain types of talent, but I will say throwing for almost 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, and you did it like pretty efficiently, 28 for 35, 1 pick. Yo, you can't be mad. You can't be mad at Cam Ward for the decision that he made. I mean, Miami beat an SEC team, albeit it's Florida. Like, there's a lot to be desired with Florida. They're not the same program that they used to be. They're definitely lacking. However, I definitely think that Cam Ward was all of the things that we thought he would be going into this game. He looked amazing to me, and I don't say that often, but he looked great.
Yeah, little bit of a funny one. I didn't actually put this in my notes. I'm probably going to try to drop way too much information on myself here and fully. What's it called when you dox? I'm doxing my daddy, but it makes me laugh. Mark Fletcher Jr. got 23 yards off 7 rushes. It's fair enough. Like, it's not the greatest of all time, but 2 yards a carry. It is what it is. Also got a catch for 22 yards. So, do you know who else is Mark Fletcher Jr. technically? Me. My dad is also called Mark Fletcher, so it always makes me laugh a little bit when I watch him do well. Mark Fletcher Jr.
That's
just because I don't know. My dad, the first time I watched American football, watched football, just in general watched the NFL. He showed a little bit of interest, but was only interested in telling me that how it's rugby for people who can't take rugby tackles, etc. So I just look at him seeing Mark Fletcher Jr. play football and thinking, suck it, Dad. Anyway, on a totally different, I did find it funny. Then you've got Xavier Restrepo. There we go. Yeah, Xavier Restrepo. 7 receptions, 112 yards. It's not a bad day at the office. Elijah Arroyo, 4 receptions, 89 yards. Isaiah Horton, 4 receptions, 70 yards. Elijah Lofton, 2 receptions, 38 yards.
Yeah, they had a lot
Mark
of...
Fletcher Jr. had average. Well, my dad's son managed 22 yards of reception on the 1 reception. But that's just not a bad day at the office for your receivers.
Yeah, those guys were open for business. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you ever watched, it was like a random episode of Hard Knocks. I think it was like an episode where I think it was Chad Johnson, and he was like, call that boy 7-Eleven because he's always open. Like, those dudes were always open or seeming like they could do no wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Florida underestimated maybe the scheme. There wasn't enough film on Cam. But whew, that he excuse my language, he tore their ass up.
Oh, don't worry, we've said words like that. Don't worry about your language. I wanna kind of close this game off with I've got to not directly quote. I'm basically going to paraphrase roughly what Gary said. When we spoke about Billy Napier earlier in the season, earlier in the off season, kind of did a bit of a more of a look at the SEC, and we focused a bit on Florida and Billy Napier and how 3 losing seasons in a row is not going to be very nice for him at a place like Florida. But we said, look, they've got arguable. I think I actually looked the other day, and when you go off certain things like the certain strength of schedules, the amount of top 25 teams they've got to play, Florida had up there with the hardest schedule in all of football, or at least in college football anyway. And the thing that he said was that might help if you go 6-6, 5-7, maybe not 4-8, but it might get you through one more off. Like, it might keep you in a job for one more year going into next August, September. On the proviso that you don't get your backsides kicked by your local rivals in your state. And that's exactly what happened.
I would have to agree. I think that a tough schedule, if you're not doing so well, I think a tough schedule does buy you time. How much time is yet to be determined, but I've seen, watching a lot of ball, like football, I think we've all seen like coaches that have stayed around a little bit too long because maybe the city felt bad for them or the college felt bad for them because they just had like a gauntlet that year and they were allowed to stick around a little bit too long. I think Napier has had the opportunity to get his guys or the type of player for the system that he wants in there. So I don't necessarily know if you having a rough schedule gets you another year or buys you to the end of the season, because maybe your system or the approach that you've taken at that university just is not going to work out, because you can't lose too much in college football.
No, you can't. Yeah, so as I like to say, just going back off to what Gary said earlier this week, earlier a few weeks ago. I say, look, there's only so often you can lose, but sometimes that gives you a little bit of reprieve and not necessarily an excuse, but a little bit more understanding. But you just can't do that. Moving on to, I think, let me go back to my notes. Did I miss out anything else on my notes? No, I did not. So, finally, the other game that I really, really enjoyed that didn't involve one of our hosts' teams was obviously USC LSU. A Big Ten team now beating an SEC team. So just a couple of things from that game. For USC winning the first game of the post-Caleb Williams era, Milon Moss went 27 of 36, 378 yards.
Oof.
So we talk about Cam Ward, like just under 400 yards and 1 touchdown. USC's rushing core all went for 72 yards, whereas LSU, Garrett Nussmeier went 30 of 39, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. The rushing went for 113 yards. Where did that go? One more thing. There was one more thing. I mean, this stupid finger being out of... Like, the one finger I can't afford to lose is the one I've lost this week. And the only other thing I'm going to say before I throw this to you is Kyron Hudson, end of story.
I think winning the first game in the way that they did begs the question, is it the player, that age-old question, is it the player or is it the system?
That is a great question.
Because if you have a guy come in and put up those kind of numbers, albeit with one touchdown. I mean, I would have, albeit with one touchdown, I would have liked to see a little bit more, but maybe the opportunity didn't present itself in that way.
Yeah, I get that.
But yeah, I definitely think if they can, by beating an SEC school, new member of the Big Ten, new kind of new quarterback, new guy, I think, and playing one of the blue bloods of the SEC, like I definitely think that it begs the question, or not begs the question, it offers you something to talk about that coaching staff and how high quality they are and how they get those athletes prepared, because they looked prepared. Chip Kelly's team, they looked eventually underprepared. Like they were ready for some moments, but not ready for the moment. And
yeah,
I know. Yeah, it just, I couldn't, it was just it just didn't look well. They didn't look well coached in some of those situations.
And it's a bad look when your coach is doing a press conference after the game and he punches a table. That's never a good look. I get that he was. I get you. You're frustrated. It happens. We've watched in the NFL. We've watched our head coach cry in a post-game press conference. Like it happens. Emotions and just kind of everything that encapsulates a game gets to you. But the whole, we had them there. I get it. They had them there at one point for the taking. They didn't. They didn't put the foot down and keep going. He feels that USC didn't necessarily win the game; they lost the game. But
it's easy to say that when you have, I guess, you're a coach like Chip Kelly. Because do you think a coach, any other coach that's not a Chip Kelly, a Nick Saban, Jim Harbaugh, like any of those, like even Dabo Swinney to a lesser degree, or same amount. I don't think a coach like Sherrone Moore can't say that.
No,
he can't say, "Oh well, we lost the game. They didn't beat us." No, you lost.
Yeah,
385 yards of 300, almost damn near 400 yards of offense given up to a quarterback. You kind of it don't look like y'all won. Y'all were winning, and then it was just like a fumble at somewhere, and somebody is a scoop and score. Like, no, you lost the game.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's fair. I think it almost would be, if I'm the USC head coach, I think I would take that more or less as a slap in the face, because no, we beat you.
Yeah. Maybe I've worded that a little bit, but I want to say I don't feel like he showed any genuine disrespect to USC. But at the same time, like I say, it was like we had them there, and we lost that game. We gave up that game, kind of. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, maybe that's the old athlete in me coming out, like looking for bulletin board material. Like, oh, so you had us, right? You had us. Okay,
yeah.
I'll see you again in the playoffs if you make it there, because we're 1-0, you're 0-1. your probability has shifted down. Ours has gone up, especially in a 12-team playoff.
So, the going down now. The only thing left to say, and I've said it 4 times already, I think. But Kyron Hudson, what a catch! One of the best catches I've seen. Nearly thought he didn't have it, and I don't. As you're kind of watching the replays come through, and they checked to see if it was actually a catch, which I get because it wasn't initially as clean as it like the picture of Kyron Hudson with his hand behind his head, almost I'd say OBJ-esque. But actually, I think it looked better than the OBJ catch, in my opinion. When you get the certain pictures and angles, it needs to be hung in the Louvre. But it was a full on hang it in the Louvre moment. But obviously, it looks great, but he doesn't. It's not that full. He doesn't have full control of it, bringing it under. So I think his left arm being underneath him as the ball comes down stops the ball from touching the ground and allows him to. Still an insane catch. But like I said, they were reviewing it. And I'm not kind of looking at it and thinking they might not give this. They might claim that the ball touches the floor. But even I unfortunately, my wife was too fast asleep to care. And if I woke her up to say, "Babe, what a catch," I wouldn't be here to talk on this podcast. The worst thing that happened to me this week would not be with my finger. It would. But I was saying, like, do you know what? Even if the ball touches the floor, give him the catch. Purely for all of that, give him the catch. Just for the vibes. Or just for whatever. But just give him the catch. He deserves it.
I mean, with the hat that you have on, my brother, we don't know what a catch is, okay? We don't know what a catch is. I mean,
we didn't have the greatest wide receiver in NFL history for.
We do. He's in the Lions Ring of Honor, but I don't think, and this might be controversial, I don't think it was a catch. Yeah.
Oh, not necessarily controversial. I would say it did. It was close. Like I say, his left arm might have just saved him.
No, that was not a catch. It's not a catch. We can. From the replays I've seen, I even tried to catch a little bit of it again just to make sure I was correct in my assertion. That was not a catch. I feel like referees too get caught up in the moment, and
that's fair. But I also just for the vibes. Sometimes a referee just needs to go with the vibe, unless you're refereeing at the at AT&T Stadium, the Cowboys. Don't go with the vibes, but go with the vibes. No, I'm joking. No, a referee should always be obviously objective and to the rules, but also sometimes. Anyway, going on to I guess so the teams that our hosts follow. Sam obviously is a Texas fan. They beat Colorado State 52-0. Texas had slightly under 600 yards of total offense. Arch Manning came in, got a drive, got a touchdown. And for those of you who play Madden or those of you who play the college football 25, he hit an L1 with the little toss. He's coming out the pocket and he just a little toss over there. The little handoff with the L1, hit that touchdown. Texas looked really, really, really good. I don't like this whole it's only such and such a team. Then or that they're only a team from such and such a conference, or it's only FCS. You can only play what's in front of you, and they played what's in front of them, and they won convincingly.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm interested to see how Arch Manning does once they finally give him the reins. I think some of the issues of him coming there and then not winning a starting job or whatever that controversy was, I think I'm interested to see what he does, but I also know that bearing that last name, coming from a football family, like being from football royalty, where like the quarterback position seems to like flow in your DNA. I I think Texas might I would say that they're a playoff team from the way that they looked, because they did exactly like you said. They played the team that was in front of them. They beat the team that was in front of them. That's
Yeah.
all you're asked to do. You're not asked to do like anything else. Like Colorado State showed up, then I'm gonna play Colorado State. But yeah, I think if whoever Texas gets, even though they're kind of unproven, I don't think they deserve a number three.
Yeah.
I don't think they deserve to be the number three team in the nation. They haven't done anything to warrant that. I think that's kind of weird.
Well, we could go
But
to
what do
your
you think?
favourite topic and say that they also have someone else who's hot favourite for a number one draft pick next year. And I know, like, I've seen all 6 of your way too early 2025 mock drafts, Chris. I've seen all of them. But no, I think, yeah, it's going to be one of them. They are, they're obviously the hottest contested team. The hottest team to give Georgia a run for the money. And talking about teams, actually, talking about Georgia and Texas, and playing what's in front of you, Alabama won 63-0 against Western Kentucky. A couple of our hosts had them as winning their conference, and that's not a great start if you want to win your conference, losing 63-0, even if it's to Alabama. But that's a great start for them under the no Nick Saban era. Then
That's true.
we had next Notre Dame beating Texas A&M 23-13. The bit that got me the most was watching the College Game Day clip of all of the panel going Texas A&M, Texas A&M, Texas A&M, and then the Fighting Irish win.
Yeah, I don't think. Maybe sometimes, again, I don't want to discredit anybody on their football acumen or their football knowledge or not getting caught up in like what they see on tape, but sometimes you can have a team like a Notre Dame. You never count a team like Notre Dame out. Like every year, like they should be on your radar if you're playing them, even if they're
Yeah.
having a down year, because they're not going to be down for long. Like they're
No.
going to be competitive. They're always a well coached. They're like, it doesn't. You could bring me into Notre Dame. I'm going to have all of the resources to make sure they're a well coached team, because they're well resourced, and they give the players the opportunities to be the best versions of themselves. So you never count a team like Notre Dame out. You never pick Texas A&M over Notre Dame. What did Johnny Manziel like pop back up in a Texas A&M uniform with Mike Evans? They're gonna come save the day and lead you to the college football promised land? Like absolutely not. So then you don't. I don't know who Texas A&M, who's on Texas A&M. I couldn't tell you.
I mean,
to warrant them being picked over Notre Dame, I would say.
Come on. Terry Busey. Everyone knows Terry Busey. Everyone knows Terry Busey.
Do we?
He went for an insane 1 carry for 0 yards. What do you mean you don't know who he is? That man brought it back to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So I will have something that I, with all due respect, I know I couldn't do. So I can give that respect. It's fine. I couldn't get back to the line of scrimmage. I'm getting all my teeth knocked out 5 yards behind the line. It's fine. But that was genuinely an interesting game, and I did watch a fair bit of that. The problem I had on Saturday, Chris, was this is my first year. Like, I've watched college football for the last few years. I've watched multiple different games each week. But
Yeah.
this is my first time watching multiple games at one time. That's when it's not the NFL, and I don't have the Lions game on there or the whoever's game on there at any given time, and have Red Zone on there. I had like a few different games on the go, and ADHD, sensory overload, could not do it. My head was kind of doing this for. Luckily, on a fair few, it's great when like one play happens there and then they stop there because the play's finished, and then the next screen starts their play, and then the next one, and then the next one. But when there's 3 plays going on at once, I don't know what's happened. And so Notre Dame was one of the ones that was kind of in a rotation on the screen that I just kept missing because I couldn't keep on top of it. But it was a genuinely good game.
I think, but if you're looking at like if we're doing the comparison of like teams, I think Notre Dame did something really, really well. They were really efficient at running the ball. All of their running backs or rushing attempts were averaging over 5 yards a carry. So I think that that's very important to note because you've got Love rushing for 91 yards, Leonard rushing for 63, Price rushing for 44. So I think they ended up with 198 rushing yards. Like, you're bleeding the clock at that point.
Yeah.
Like, you're destroying the clock.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if, because obviously we'll try and get through the next couple of games as well as quickly, quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because we get into the best game where there's a team that played, I don't know, it's that Michigan team again, the ones that are, champions of the nation. Those ones that I think we need to move on to. Do you know who they are? You know them, right?
Yes.
You heard of them?
I think so. I think I've heard of the Wolveranos, the Wolverines.
It's some along those lines. It don't really matter. They're only the national champions. Beating Fresno State 30-10. 20 points. Fresno State, who are, when we were looking pre-season, I had Fresno State winning the Mountain West over Boise State, to which I had a couple of great interactions with Fresno State fans who were just like, thank you for that one. They're very appreciative of my choosing them over Boise State.
Right.
But they were picked as one of the top 2 or 3 group of 5 teams who could challenge for a have the automatic group of 5 playoff berth, but also potentially, if they have a good enough season, could genuinely make a 12-team playoff and be a second group of 5 team. A lot of people came out and gave the whole it's only Fresno State, but Fresno State that are widely considered one of the best group of 5 teams in the whole country.
So here's my thing with the most disrespected national champion I think I've ever seen in Michigan. I think giving the former national champion, making them a number 10 seed, I think it's not. But I digress. I think what we saw in that game, they're still following the same formula that they followed last year.
Yeah.
They're going to be hyper efficient. They want to run the ball. They want to be physical. They want to impose their will on you. And I think a team like Fresno State, I think they're good. They're not a bad team. I think people look at like a school like Fresno State and they go, it's Fresno State. Like, no, you have to know that like it's some dogs over there. They're not. That's not just one of those ones that you just like, it's Southern New Hampshire University online classic football college team. Like they all are just players that they found in D8. No, like
Yeah.
they're a really good team.
Yeah, it says a lot as well, though, because one thing we all expected, Michigan lost Blake Corum, lost JJ McCarthy, lost some other piece on, lost Trente Jones, by the way, who I absolutely loved last year and have followed him ever since on multiple forms of social media. No one, I don't think, has defended Michigan and the legacy of Jim Harbaugh and everyone involved more than he has on social media. As someone who is part of it, I could be wrong, genuinely, but he's someone I've followed quite closely when he's done that. So, you lose quite a few pieces on the offense. One thing that everyone knew was going to be the case is that defense will stay elite. And do you know what? What I saw was an elite defense and continue to be elite. And despite, well, I say despite, can't really be despite. Will Johnson, 89-yard pick six, but even without that, Will Johnson was a problem and will be a problem all year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I think the defensive side of the ball is going to probably be what keeps us or catapults us back into the top four. Because I think, what I saw was they weren't playing with their food on defense. Offense, we're going to, there are some things that we can work on. We can do better.
Tried some things, didn't work.
Right, try some things differently. I think Warren is going to be the starter. I think he was named the starter after the game. So I think, him taking that spot from Alex, Davis Warren, him taking that spot from Alex Orji, I wanted to see us have more of a dual threat mobile quarterback, but I think maybe they're just pieces of the playbook that he's not really confident with yet. But if Davis doesn't pan out, I could see Alex Orji coming in and being the dual threat quarterback, them shaving down the playbook, and we're just gonna have to play a different style of football because you have to have that type of athleticism on the field in one way or another. I don't care if you got to bring Cam Newton in and teach him how to play. Like, let Cam teach Alex how to play that style of football. The kid has a good arm. Warren has a great arm too, but I would like to have seen him get more of an opportunity, but it has to be something in the playbook or something that he doesn't read well with the way defenses stack up against him that just don't allow him to be who he's projected to be, because he's gonna be good.
Well, one of my favorite parts of the game, other than the 89-yard pick six, which I can talk about that again. I'll talk about that properly in a second, but was Alex Orji's pass to Donovan Edwards. 3-yard pass, it's nothing, a 3-yard touchdown pass is nothing insane. But earlier in the offseason, when Sharon Moore was talking about the quarterback battle and maybe Alex Orji won't be the starting quarterback, because I was predicting it earlier in June, maybe, that it's probably going to be Alex Orji. Then we start to hear things, and I kind of. But he was saying, look, no matter what happens, Alex Orji will be used because of that dual threat, because he is an athlete and he has so many tools in his wheelhouse that it's impossible to ignore him. Which I thought, if he's not going to be the starting quarterback, they're going to have maybe not quite Taysom Hill level packages but they are going to bring him in where specifically Alex Orji and his skill set are going to be utilised. My favourite thing, it really was watching Alex Orji line up and you watch the whole defence go, they're running it. 3 yards out, you're bringing Alex Orji, you're running it. Everyone knows you're running it because that's what Alex Orji's being brought in to do. He's going to... So he gets it, starts to move out to the right, sends it to Donovan Edwards, and I was just Alex Orji sold a whole entire defense on his own. Donovan Edwards goes in, touchdown, quality.
And I think that that shows. I don't know. I think that it shows the potential is there. He doesn't necessarily have to be a Taysom Hill replica, but I think, like you're saying, like you have to have that on the field. And I
Yeah.
watched that play similarly, like, oh, this is going to be a run play. And then I was like, well, maybe not. Maybe they're going to try something different here. And of course, beat to the right, like he sucked that whole offense, that whole defensive line just shifted down as soon as he started moving because they're like, oh, it's a run. All of the linebacking core, the secondary, like everybody just sold it, and then he's like, oh, it's out there in the flat. Can you imagine when he actually grasps the playbook like a little bit better? Having that, it's gonna be bad news bears. But I think Davis Warren is a good quarterback as well. I don't want to shit on Davis Warren because I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's your really good. He can shift the pocket around. He understands line adjustments, things of that nature. Maybe understands the playbook a little bit better. Has a better grasp of the offense. Is able to get moving and rolling and get that offense rolling. But we saw this last year, or not last year, the year before last. With JJ and like all of the, like the quarterback changes with Coach Harbaugh. So I think this is just similar. Like you got to see what you got. You can't do that in the spring game. You can't do that in practice. So, but I like Wink Martindale as well as the DC. Like I think he had some strange adjustments, but we got to see what we got, man. We got to give Sharon a fighting chance.
The pick six was I watched that. I watched that, and I just the first thing that comes to my mind is that's why you watch tape. That's why you watch tape, and that is I watched tape. I knew I understood it. I understood the assignment. I saw something happen, and because of the tape, I knew what to do. Play the receiver sits. He sees the quarterback. There we go. Straight away. He's throwing it to the flat. Get in front of it. Gone. See you later. And sent everyone else for tea and biscuits. End of story. Just it's an example for me of exactly that's a I watch film, and that is why you watch film kind of pick.
Yeah. Because that shows you the difference between a well-coached defense and a not so well-coached defense. Because he makes that read so flawlessly. It's like he's studied it 1,000 times. Like he knows where everybody's going to be in that moment because he's so well rehearsed. He's the coaching staff and like the film team have shown like, okay, this is a tendency for this style of offense. When you see this is probably going to be what happens. If this person makes this read step in the first 5 yards, they're going to go to this route, make the read and make the play. And I think he made the read and made the play, and it looked great. Like I watched it, I was like, well, damn.
So can I ask you something?
So I definitely agree.
Last season when Michigan won a lot, why did they win? Why did Michigan win? What was the only reason that Michigan ever won anything ever?
I mean, that's a loaded question. I think because they dominated on the defensive side of the ball and they dominated time of possession. They're well coached and well prepared for every team that they played. I mean, what else? There's a laundry list of reasons why.
Well, you took that question a lot more seriously than I meant it. That was meant as it wasn't as loaded. Well, okay, what would if you were an Ohio State fan, and I don't ever want to put you in that position where you think of that, Chris. Don't truly entertain this question. Or an MSU fan, what would you say it was for? Why have Michigan won anything ever?
Because we were stealing signals.
There we go, Connor Stallions. Connor Stallions. Now, Connor Stallions was the only reason Michigan have ever won a game. You know when Connor Stallions resigned? What's
When did
Michigan's
Connor
record
Stallions
since
resign?
Connor Stallions resigned?
I don't know.
How many
You're
games do you
gonna
think
tell
Michigan
me.
have lost? How many games? The
None.
only reason Michigan have ever won a game ever in history. How many games do you think they've lost since that went away?
None.
It's a round number, and when I say round, I mean like a circle.
And just for context, right? Circling back to the game that I actually physically went to, it is so easy to see the signals on the sideline. For example, we're in the bleachers, my wife and I, we're in the bleachers, or in the stands, excuse me, we're not at a high school football game. We're in the stands. They have their second string, third string, fourth string. They look like they could be the quarterback. They look like maybe they just have three players on the side. They're all in the little mesh net jerseys that you wear when you're playing soccer as a little kid on the team, but it's not a real jersey. All of those, there are three athletes on the sideline. They're all doing different hand signals. And as they're doing different hand signals, you can see the quarterback, the wide receivers, and the line make shifts based on how those three players on the sidelines are giving the signals to the players that are on the field. So even if Connor Stallions, whatever, doesn't go to the game, if you're watching the All 22, or you're just even watching like any game film, you're going to be able to decipher what those plays are over time because these coaches, these staffs spend countless hours in preparation for a game that's getting ready to come. So I think they can kiss my ass.
So how much did Connor actually pay you to say that? Did he get you the tickets to go watch Duke?
Nah, I mean, listen, if anybody wants to offer me tickets to go watch their team play, I mean, listen, I can be bought.
just you can't. I'm not the way you mentioned it. That I couldn't be paid to watch. I couldn't be paid to watch Duke. To be honest with you, even if they have a British linebacker, I can't do it. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Duke, but I'm good. If the only reason I care about your team is a guy who's more known for sailing, I don't care about your team. I'm going to be quite honest with you there, Greg. If you're there, if you are there, Duke is my second team.
Oh, but that's friendship right there.
Until then, if the only reason I've ever given a crap about your team is because the guy has a really funny name and he does sailing, end of story. I'm done. Finally, because we've been at this is some great games and whatnot, but finally, and this is my favourite one, and I'm so gutted that Gary's not here for this. Boston College 28, Florida State University 13. DJ looked bad again, like he did while we were sat there watching him against. Well, not me, we as in me and you, while some of us were sat there in Dublin watching him against Georgia Tech. The same problems that were against Georgia Tech came back. The defense got abused on the inside run. Absolutely disgracefully abused on the inside run. And I'm like, I watched the Lions 49ers game with you for the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
We both watched together the two failed fourth down conversions where I like aggressive football, but even I'm sat there at the time thinking maybe we should have gone for the field goal there.
Points. Go for the points, yeah.
I very, very rarely though. It's only when my team is involved in involved in a championship game did I think take the points. Any other time I'm like, go for it, be aggressive, do what you need to do. 4th and 5, a 1-score game, and one of the dumbest play calls I've seen in a long time.
Right.
The difference, I think, between the Lions and the Lions and 49ers game, the Lions offense was going, and the Lions
Yeah, it was
offense
rolling.
has some momentum. Your offense has not got going all game. Your defense, your defensive line couldn't stop a toddler.
Right.
You have no momentum in the game. Maybe you try and get it, but it's just you don't have everything that kind of goes before stacking a 4th and 5 with lots of time left in a one-score game in your favour. You're suing the ACC. You're suing the ACC because you want to go to the SEC and Big Ten. The SEC and Big Ten are looking at you and going, "Go! We don't want you." At this point,
Right.
they don't want. And then if this is how you're going in front of the world and going, "No, we deserve to be at the top of the table," and get a seat at the with Georgia and Alabama and Michigan and Ohio State and Texas and all that. This is not how you do it. Clemson's bad enough, but this going 0-2 in your conference.
Yeah, I think, like you said, a lot of the problems that they had in that initial game came back to bite them. But then that speaks to my favorite thing is how well coached are you? Because if those things keep turning into a recurring issue, then maybe it's not the players, maybe it's the coach, or maybe like, I know I don't want to turn this into a Detroit Lions freaking fanboy podcast episode, but even when we were losing, and it wasn't not that long ago, Dan Campbell said, "Hey, we got to simplify some things on certain sides of the ball. We have to do some things different." I think if I'm Florida State and that staff, when I go back and I look at that film, I think we're going to make some adjustments. We're going to simplify some things. We're going to try to be a more physical team up front, because there's no reason you lose to Boston College. I don't care who you are. If you're Florida State, you do not lose to Boston College. Like,
nope.
That's like the 1 year Michigan lost to Appalachian State. You're not supposed to do that. The coach deserves to be fired after losing to Appalachian State. I don't care if all other than the starting 53, all of them are out, and you got to deal with the rest of the 85. You don't lose that game. The caliber of players should not be on par with each other, but we'll see what happens.
We talk about efficient passing on a couple of these games.
Yes, sir.
DJ, 21 of 42 for 272 yards. And a lot of them, dare I say, there were some okay passes in there. Don't get me wrong. There were a couple where I thought you've got quite lucky here, and it was like, when Jared Goff throws a deep ball, and at the end the ball's just kind of in the midair, just kind of bit all over the place. When he, a lot of them are like after 2 yards, the ball is just kind of going. It's not a spiral. Yeah. It's a wobbler. And I don't want to turn this into just bash it, because again, I'm sorry, Gary, but I watched the game too. I watched all 4 quarters. It was not good. 21 of 42 is not great. One thing that did impress me though, and again, but this was on Boston College's side, I'm not going to lie. Where's it? 200. Where's it? There were 263 yards on rushing, as opposed to Florida State's 21 yards rushing all game.
Shut up. Go away. Cancel the podcast. Turn it off. Close this. I'm closing my laptop. I didn't realize, and maybe because I was lost in the moment. Say it again. You said 200 and how many yards?
So Boston College had 263 yards rushing off 52 attempts. 5 points.
I
5.1. That's a damn good rushing average.
will murder you.
As opposed to 21 rushing yards off 16 attempts. An average of 1.3 yards per attempt.
You just got and again, you just got your ass beat. They were more physical than you. They out physicaled you. Like, yeah, they only had 106 passing yards, but if I have damn near 300 yards on the ground, that's preposterous. That's literally like somebody turned on college football 25. Like, how many yards rushing can I get on the ground? What's the record? Like, let's just keep pounding the rock because we know we're better than them. We're more physical than them. But again, when you have teams that are able to prepare for you and they know where your weaknesses are because you've exposed them early, this is what's going to happen. I 263 yards of offense makes my heart warm. It makes my heart warm. That's a brand of football we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, well, no. In Detroit, we've seen this run first,
yes,
pound the rock, punch you in the face football. But it went to the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
That gives a lot more opportunities for teams like Florida State to make a mistake. It's okay. Georgia Tech happens. It's first game of the season. You've flown all those miles, Chris. It's fine. Hey, not great. Don't get me wrong, but it's okay. You get back week 1. You're at home. Boston College. Kick the living snot out of them. You'll be fine. Go on. 0-2. 2 conference losses, including one at home to Boston College, in which 263 yards get put up on the ground.
Yeah.
Is it me, or do Florida State have to win out? Have to. 10-2. No other excuses.
Yeah, they got to win out. You have to win out. You have to win out. If Florida State does not win out, they're not in, because I don't see how the committee will look at them and say, oh, they're okay. They can do things. They have to win out, because I think next on, they don't, their schedule, from what I can see, from what they already have posted out, like, I don't think their schedule is that difficult. I think but they got to win out. If they if they even want to like be on the bubble, they got to win out, especially as convoluted as the new 12-team college playoff seems for like anybody other than the conference champions. If you're not a conference champion, like, you better have a beautiful run of games that makes that committee want to put you in there.
Yeah. So I'm just looking again, and to kind of wrap this up on Florida State, because I don't want to just beat Florida State the whole time. But
yeah,
Florida State, they've got a bye week this week, then they've got Memphis, California, then they're at SMU, they've got Clemson at home, then they're on a bye week, they're at Duke, not an easy game, but one you would want them to probably expect them to win. At Miami, who see like 20 minutes ago, half an hour ago of this episode about Miami. North Carolina, at Notre Dame, see half an hour ago. A bye week, Charleston, South Florida. Now that Florida game might be really interesting because, look, okay, I'm not going to come out here and say Florida State are going to lose to Charleston South. I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going to play that game of hyperbole. All of those games are now losable if they carry on. All of them are losable. Memphis, California, SMU definitely, who are up there with favourites to win the ACC. Duke, see an hour ago as well. those games to lose. I don't see, except maybe Notre Dame. And if that's a close loss, maybe. But any other game there, you don't have an excuse for losing it, though. It's a game that you'd expect Florida State to win.
You don't lose. So here are the games you can't lose if you're Florida State. You can't lose the Memphis game.
Nope.
You cannot lose the Cal game. You cannot lose the SMU game. You can't lose the Clemson game because as of right now they're still ranked, so you can't lose that game. You gotta beat you have to beat a ranked opponent because right now there are no ranked opponents on the schedule other than Clemson and Miami.
Notre Dame.
Oh, and Notre Dame. So you got 3 ranked opponents, one of which is in the top 10. So you have to beat at least 2 of them. Maybe one of them is a close game. Maybe Notre Dame or maybe Miami
at Notre
kicks
Dame
you
as
back
well.
in. Oh, well then.
At Notre Dame, at
Florida
Miami.
Yeah, Florida State might as well cancel this season. This is that's a rough go of it.
So what we're saying here right now, I say we, what you're saying.
No, we are saying this. No, I'm kidding.
Week 14 is an 0-11 Florida State playing 0-11 Florida, and it's the battle of who doesn't go winless in the season. And somehow it's the first college football game where after 43 overtimes they go, right, fuck, a tie. Just do it, a tie. We'll let a tie happen, stop, and both teams go away without a win. Is that what we're saying?
I mean,
6 in the morning in Florida.
Yeah.
And the referees say, listen, I've got to go home. I've got a wife, I've got children.
They can beat Charleston. Charleston Southern. They can beat them. That's a game that they're going to win. UNC just lost their quarterback to a catastrophic injury. That's a game they're going to win. It's just those in between games, man. Like in between, like you got a Memphis, but then you got a Cal, and then you got a SMU, but then you got a Clemson. Then you got a Duke. Then you got a Miami. You got a UNC, and then you got a Notre Dame. Then you got a so they stacked the good team, bad team, or they stacked these schedules really well for them, but you're going to be coming up against teams that you're probably looking past, and you're probably going to slip up against one. Maybe you slip up against, I live up here, but maybe you slip up against Duke, or maybe you slip up against UNC, and now you're really out of it. Because I'm not going to put you in a college football playoff if you're slipping up against UNC and they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah. So. Okay. So, been great. There's a couple more things I want to just touch on week 1, but these are going to be really, really quick, and then we'll have a quick look to week 2. Egg. We have a host called Egg, which I think is much my favourite thing ever. Who has Egg has sent us some stuff in for me to just kind of read out on here. I'm just going to get through Egg. So. He said, all right, mate, in case I'm fast asleep, here are my picks of games, etc. So the Mountain West Roundup. Fresno, good. Boise, need more data. New Mexico, Devin Dampier at QB is a monster. Glimpses of the team being half decent. Wyoming, worst team in D1. Special shout out to Vandy and UMass. Watch Vandy and UMass games. I don't know if that was a command or for me or for anyone else. I watched the Vanderbilt game. That fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Then we've got an SCS roundup. Youngtown got hammered by Nova. New Hampshire got on the wrong side of a close 57-3 loss to the UCF. North Dakota looked good. Still my number in the top 25. South Dakota got slapped, but will come good. Next bit I'll mention in a second. One other thing I wanted to mention was there was an incident in the dirty Michigan State game where they played Florida, not Florida International, was it Florida Atlantic? Florida Atlantic. In which, I just wanted to clarify something for anyone who was confused. A targeting call got called on Florida Atlantic. Now it was targeting, end of story, not hearing anything of it. QB could have slid a bit earlier, but it is what it is. 4th down, quarterback slides short of the 1st down. As he slides, crown of the helmet hits the helmet, play over. When the play's over. A lot of people couldn't understand why Florida Atlantic then got the ball. The reason for that being, in college football, as we mentioned in a previous episode, it's not the NFL. You aren't downed by contact. When any part of your body that isn't your feet or hands touches the floor, the play's dead. If your knee, your elbow, your hand, your nose touches the floor, you're the play's over.
Mm-hmm.
So when the QB slid, play was dead. Short of the 1st down, that means the ball was turned over. It was turned over on downs. That then means it's Florida Atlantic's ball. Then the targeting happened. So it technically happened like half a second after it's Florida Atlantic ball. The targeting happens. Therefore, the penalty is put onto Florida Atlantic's offense. On the next, it's enforced after the end of the play. So on the next available play, which is when Florida Atlantic were on offense, because turnover on downs. One other thing I do want to mention as well, really quick, actually, I watched a lot of Conference USA because why not? Conference USA is now my conference. Kennesaw State, interesting game. Owen McCowan, son of 20-year NFL veteran Josh McCowan, looked fantastic, absolutely fantastic for the first half against Kennesaw State. They figured some stuff out. Hilarious though, Chris, and I mean it was hilarious when watching it. Have you ever watched a team get a load of good fortune and then blow it? That wasn't the Detroit Lions under Aaron Glenn on the defense.
The things that really just get me to talking. I've definitely seen a lot of good things happen to a team that just seems like, oh, they're gonna win this. Is that what happened? Because I didn't catch the Kennesaw State game.
So I know I don't expect you to watch Kennesaw State. People in Georgia don't watch Kennesaw State.
My sister, shout out to my sister. She went to Kennesaw State.
Did you? See, I knew there was a connection. I knew there was something about Kennesaw State, other than I'm new to Conference USA and so are they, so why not? Again, similar, there were a lot of targeting calls this weekend. I don't know if it's just players getting used to, if there's whatever's going on with the rules, whether it's just getting used to the season. A lot of targeting calls, it felt like, this weekend.
Yeah.
So, Kennesaw State had the ball. As the play happens, it was a running play, or in fact, no, it was either a rush or a pass. Either way, receiver or runner goes out of bounds. As they go out of bounds, tackle comes in. They're a good yard or two out of bounds. There was a lot of time that a player, the defensive player, could have taken to stop what he was doing.
Right.
Tackle comes in out of bounds, which not allowed. That's a penalty on sportsmanlike conduct. 15 yards. That's first 15 yards. Defensive player then gets back up and gives it the whole, I just did what I did, and starts chatting away to the offense. Little bit of a push to the sidelines. It's another unsportsmanlike conduct. 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, and they build. So there's 30 yards. Kennesaw State struggling. 30 yards of free offense given to them. So then the head coach's son, he was one of the wide receivers, walks over, not very happy at what the defensive play's just done, pushes him back. Offsets all those 30 yards, and then they go back again. So you were given 33 yards, and because the head coach's son couldn't hold himself for 2 seconds not to walk up and push someone, lost them all. Fucking stupid. So thanks, Kennesaw State, for, it didn't ruin my weekend, but, could have been nicer. I have a question for you, Chris. And I do this every week. I give a little trivia question.
Okay, let's
Nice and
go.
easy
Let's
one
see
this
how
weekend.
wrong I'm gonna get this, or how too serious I'm gonna take it.
Which FBS conference remains undefeated this season? Only one remains undefeated.
I want to say, is it the Big Ten?
No, Big Ten. A Big Ten team or two has lost already.
Either that. Is it the SEC? And you
because we know LSU lost.
You're right. Good God, man. The Mountain West Conference USA.
It wasn't the Mountain West. The Mountain West lost too.
The SWAC, Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Is that FBS?
Yeah, nobody has that one. FBS.
I didn't even know they were FBS.
I don't think they are. I'm just guessing at this point. The Big 12.
It was the Pac-12.
What?
Otherwise, now most recently known as the Pac-2. Now, I think it's a bit unfair because there's two teams in the whole conference. But Washington State and Oregon State. Washington State and Oregon State.
Why are they the only team left?
Well, you know, half of them went off to the SEC. Well, a couple went off to Big 12, a couple went off to the SEC. And then, you know, you've got like USC, Cal, etc., who went to Big 10. So the Pac-12 is pretty much dead. But Oregon State and Washington State both won this weekend. The only two teams in the conference won, meaning the Pac-12 has a perfect joint record. I think it's the cutest little stat ever. It's an adorable stat.
Really?
It's an adorable stat.
That's insane.
So, while we just start to wrap up really quick, I'm going to read off a couple of the big games that are happening this weekend. Chris, guess what? Some big games happening this weekend, including, and I think the main one, they're all happening on Saturday. So, that's good. Well, it's a lot. Some are happening Friday night.
I'll give you my winners and losers if you want.
There's three happening on Friday. Western Illinois at Indiana, BYU at SMU, and Duke at Northwestern. 3 games, none of them massive.
Duke.
Out of those 3, which one would you rather watch?
I probably want to watch Northwestern Duke, not because is it Northwestern at Duke or Duke at Northwestern?
Duke at Northwestern.
I probably would like to watch that game more just because Northwestern, Big Ten team. Are they a Big Ten team? Listen,
yes.
I'm tired. It's been a long day. But yeah. Northwestern, Big Ten team, Duke, ACC team or ACC school, not necessarily known for football, but I think I would probably be more inclined to watch that one just because I feel like you see 2 teams that are in the lower rungs of football that probably are going to play hard. Maybe not as disciplined, but they're going to play hard. Next.
I'd go just for the Lakeside Stadium. Because that's a beautiful little stadium. The little temporary one that Northwestern have got is a beautiful little stadium.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got Texas, Michigan. I'm sorry to have to do this to you, Chris, but 90% of our audience is in the UK, so I have to do it in Greenwich Meridian time. That's at 5 p.m. on Saturday even. Texas, number 3 ranked Texas at number 10 ranked Michigan.
So first and foremost, Texas doesn't know what it means to play in a stadium full of 110 loudly screaming fans that are probably rabid over the fact that their national championship team school has been ranked only inside the top 10 and not in the top top four, top three. And Michigan. I think Michigan is either going to do one of two things. They're either going to beat the brakes off of uh, Texas because they will be prepared. I think they might have even been looking past Fresno State, which is why Fresno scored 10 points, because they're like, no, we got to get to Texas. Because Texas, I feel like this is going to be like the Miami Florida game. Somebody's going to get taken out to the back of the woodshed and get the brakes beaten off of them. It could be Michigan. Michigan might be on the receiving end of their first ass whooping in a long time, but I definitely think Michigan comes out on top. I'm excited for this game. It's going to be, it's two top 10 teams at damn near the beginning of the year. Like, I think it's a very interesting watch, and I look forward to seeing if they even put a little arch in the game to get destroyed by that beautiful Michigan defense.
That's just cruel. Great.
Listen.
That's playing with your food. That's playing with your food. No disrespect to Archman in there, but that's playing with your food a little bit. Notre Dame, Northern Illinois for Nick, but I would say out of the next slate of games, well, obviously Massachusetts Toledo is the biggest game of the lot. Yeah. Obviously.
Oof.
We've got an all Big Ten. We've got a few all conference games. I'm trying to look, but this weekend seems a little bit disappointing. There are no, other than obviously Texas at the mighty Michigan, national champions. Nothing particularly stands out as a great game. It's going to Sunday morning here. Well, here Sunday morning, it will be Sunday evening for you. Again, nothing particularly standing out, no massive. I am glancing, and I have had, like I say, today was meant to be the day where I looked at week 2 and got my notes together. I haven't had a chance to do that today. So I am not as prepared for this bit as I want to be. Boise State, Oregon could be fun, the way Oregon kind of did not live up to expectation, and Boise State, one of the highest anticipated group of 5 teams. But other than that, nothing's standing out to me this week.
Yeah, I don't think there are a lot of. I don't think there are a lot of standout games this week, particularly. I think just the way the culture of like college football. Like, I think that those first 2 weeks are kind of like gimme games, but we have gotten kind of spoiled. We've kind of gotten spoiled this week, I think, because we saw a lot of those top 10, top 25 teams playing in the top 10, top 25. Like, they've been playing other teams based on the schedules that were made a million years ago. So,
there is one.
What?
That stands out. Nebraska, Colorado in Nebraska. That could be a good game.
It could be, but I'm not impressed by Nebraska enough yet.
Fair point. But it's a rivalry game. No. Well, no, I would agree. But Dylan Raiola. I watched Dylan Raiola last week. He's got Honolulu blue blood. That man. His dad was a 14-year Lions center. His godfather was just not quite as good as Jared Goff, obviously, but his father was that Matthew Stafford guy who was okay for the Lions for a bit, and played for the Lions for quite a while. So he's got Honolulu blue in him. So I'm just saying that Dylan Raiola, and he will be coming into he'll be eligible for the NFL just about the last year of Jared Goff's contract. Just saying. It'd be nice to see him, but Shedeur Sanders, for all the hate, Shedeur Sanders is one of them. People either shit all over him or hype him up an extreme amount. I think it's completely unfair. I'm not saying he's an in-the-middle kind of person, but from what I watched of him at the weekend, he looked damn good. He looked damn good. And obviously, you can't talk about Colorado without talking about Travis Hunter, who played all but one snap last week, and that was because he had to go off and fix something up for one snap, and then he came straight back on. Unreal. And for all the crap they've got, I'm not saying that they're a playoff team. I'm not saying they're a running the playoff team. Colorado might be for real this year.
Yeah, I think they will be better than they were last year. I think Dion needed to get in there, or Coach Sanders. I think he needed to get in there, and because I don't know him personally, Coach Sanders needed to get in there, kind of implement the systems that he wanted to have in place, like really get after some of his core principles as a head coach. Because we got to remember, like a lot of times when these head coaches take over these programs, they don't have their guys there, and I think we forgot that because Dion was he's such an imposing, or Coach Sanders is such an imposing figure on football, and he brought a lot of Jackson State players with him, but I think he still wanted other guys, like the recruitment. I think the recruitment is going to be there. Like I definitely think it's going to be something to watch this year, and he might if Coach Sanders makes the playoffs, year 2, head coach, Colorado. That's going to bolster like that recruitment process for him. I think it's going to be outstanding for him. But yeah, I'm looking. I guess you sold me on it. You sold me on it. I wasn't going to watch. Now you sold me.
I think it's look again. I don't want. I've said multiple times. Oh, I hate that whole. It's only blah blah blah.
Yeah.
They scraped away against North Dakota State, but there are a lot of things that you could put within that. Again, week one is one of two things will probably happen if you are a school like Colorado against a school like North Dakota State. You are either going to play that horrible, really close game, or by the end of the second quarter, it's 56 plus, 60 plus to nothing. And the referees walk up to both sidelines and say, we're only going to play 10-minute quarters for the second half.
Right.
One of those two things happens. I guess, unfortunately.
Right.
But well, if you're a neutral or you're a fan of the game, you want a close game, you don't want a blowout.
Yep.
Fortunately for the fan of the game, it's a close one. And we got to see them continue to play competitive football throughout the third and fourth quarter.
Yes, sir.
This is a different animal. And what you say about Nebraska, but they're a different animal compared to North Dakota State. So hopefully it makes for an even more enjoyable game.
Right.
But that is it, I believe, for me today.
That's it? Oh, man.
Given that I put together the second half of this in 10 minutes while begging people to turn up. Thank you so much, Chris. You have saved my bacon today.
Well, I mean, that's what friends are for. That's what friends are for, excuse me. Of course, man, anytime. And don't but I definitely enjoyed it. Like I definitely like talking college football with you, or talking football period, because we're not casuals in the way that I think we like to let on.
No. If they saw our mutual Google Drive full of mock drafts, they would know.
Yeah, they wouldn't know, man.
They would know.
The amount of
which
all 22 that I have stored in the Google Drive.
But for me, it's your FCS knowledge that gets me the most. It really is. Your Prairie A&M. It's fantastic. All those plays. But we won't get into that because we're just going to make everybody else feel stupid right now. I don't think that's fair on everybody else. So, but you can take my word for it. You can take our word for it that, our FCS knowledge is one.
Top tier.
Appreciate it, Chris. And I will speak to you probably in about 10 minutes in a different chat.
All right, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me on. Send the fellas